the magic of being wrong is that you get to discover, oh, there's another way to go about this. There's another way to do it. To me, that is magic. And so having that outlook, like going from someone who was raised in an environment where it wasn't safe to be wrong, and then creating an environment for myself where I now feel so safe being wrong. And the idea of being wrong, being villainized is ridiculous to me now. That is completely ridiculous. And so creating that safety in myself and for my kids, where it's almost exciting when you get it wrong, because that means there's an opportunity to discover something here.
Good morning, guys. We are your hosts, Lori.
And Shanice, certified spiritual life coaches, and we're so glad you're here. Welcome to our podcast, Branching In.
Yeah, and in this episode, we are going to talk about why we avoid being wrong and what it is costing us.
Yes.
So, Shanice, how has our environment villainized being wrong?
So society treats being wrong as something to avoid rather than something to use. So people associate being wrong with embarrassment and failure rather than curiosity and growth. And that creates this sort of paradox where we need to be wrong to learn, right?
Right.
But we're conditioned to avoid being wrong.
Yeah, so then we end up wanting to be correct rather than actually trying to understand. We stay quiet, we avoid risks, and we stick to what we already know
Yeah.
because psychologically, it just feels safer than
Mhm.
exposing a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, gosh, I resonate with that.
Yeah, I do too.
But if you zoom out, there is literally no alternative path. You cannot master a skill without making mistakes, refine thinking without incorrect assumptions, or deepen understanding without first misunderstanding something.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's so, Shanice, I'm sure we have a million stories that we could think about to like that really hits with this subject. But what I'm thinking of that I know we both can relate to is when we were in school together.
Yeah.
Like school in general is just a place where it's about right and wrong, right? Because we're in a learning center.
Well, I was that kid that was like, "Please don't
Oh,
call on me. Please don't call
yeah, I
on
was
me."
counting like 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm number 6. Try to find my answer. I wasn't listening to anything, any answers, anything else was happening around me. I had no idea. I'm just trying to find my answer and focus on me and making sure it's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's one of the worst fears when you're in school is being called on and then you don't have the right answer. It's just such
Yeah,
a terrible, terrible feeling.
it's horrifying. So let's talk about our experience together when we were in school training to be certified spiritual life coaches.
Yeah.
Uh, Go
That
ahead.
was weird, right? We've had conversations about this before. It was so weird because they it was an environment where they encouraged us to say, "I don't know," if we didn't have an answer. And I remember being really excited about that because I'd never experienced that before, in school. So I was just like, "Oh, how cool is that they're actually encouraging people to say, 'I don't know,' when they don't have the answer." And they would even, like, clap. Everyone would clap for the person who got called on and said they didn't know. But then, like, as we're going about it, they only ever called on the people who they knew would have the answers. So then it was just like, okay, well, that's not, so it's just very weird.
And I just remember, even as you're talking about this, my heart beating so fast
Yeah.
and the stress, even though they said, it's okay if you don't just say, I don't know. There was an underlying, it wasn't okay
Hmm.
because I felt it.
Yeah.
Because it was like I was honestly like, really having a hard time trying to like really take in the information because again of that, and it felt very strong. It did not
Mhm.
feel welcoming to be wrong. I did not feel that, and I know you and I discussed that, and I wasn't alone in feeling that because you felt the same way.
Yeah, well then and when we ended up doing like a term of residency together, come to find out that they did. They only called on the people who they thought would have the answers. And I remember even one girl complaining like, "I never get called on, you never called on me." And I think she ended up not finishing the rest of the class. And I remember thinking how weird that was. Like, why encourage people to be okay not having the answer, but also not give the class a fair chance, not call on everyone equally because you only called on the people who you knew would have the answer. I'm like, okay, well, that's not very genuine, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And it just shows like what we're talking about, and it just goes right into why we fear. Like why do we fear being wrong, Shanice? Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's get into that. I mean, as children, we were rewarded, when we got something right, and we were punished, in some cases, some were probably depends on what type of punishment, but punished for being wrong or not getting the same type of, pat on the back or hug or, oh my gosh, you're amazing if you did get it wrong. So it was
Yeah.
hugely that I think it stems for most all of us from our childhood.
Yeah, that was definitely the experiences I had in my upbringing where if I got an answer wrong, I would get yelled at for having the wrong answer. And then if it kept going where I would just like continue getting the answer wrong, it would be like followed by an hour-long lecture of why I need to study harder. And yeah, it made my nervous system very I was just afraid of being wrong. And so that really wired my brain as I was growing up. And it's kind of what led to my perfectionist tendencies because I was terrified of being wrong. And I needed to be right. I needed to have the right answers. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Shanice, being wrong just leads to like a lot of ridicule.
Hmm.
We adapt that as we're children, then we bring it out when we're in school with others, and then kids can be mean to other kids. This is also what they're getting, happening at home. So there's a lot of discomfort because it's very embarrassing to
Yeah.
be wrong because of that, because of so much judgment of not knowing something. Like, what are you stupid? What's wrong with you? So much judgment that there's a lot of that embarrassment, which you just said led to being a perfectionist, trying
Yeah.
so hard to do everything perfect because of that fear of being embarrassed or being picked on or being judged.
Yeah. It's insane to me how, as human beings, we learn by not knowing. And yet there's such a stigma of when you don't know something that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and so we all live in this environment where being right is highly accepted. And the people who always have the right answers are then looked upon as being very smart. And even like there's this perception it's like, oh well, they're never wrong or they've never been wrong. When it's like, well, of course they were. They're at the level they are because they didn't have the answers and they studied and they learned. And that's how you grow. There's literally no other way to grow.
Yeah. But another way that we fear in this, what we're talking about is being wrong, is we really want the approval of others. And in this line of work that we do and we talk about on this podcast, that's one thing that we help get rid of is the need for approval other than
Yeah.
our own. So how cool is that it goes hand in hand? So one big reason of fearing being wrong is needing approval, but when you get to the point that you don't need approval, that little piece of fear goes away because I know for a fact that for most of us is the fear that we really want to fit in
Mhm.
and have the approval of others.
Yeah.
That and as a child, I mean, come on, that's all of us want.
Yeah, we're wired that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, to
right.
seek that belonging and an approval of the people in our environment. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What is the cost, Lori, then? What is the cost of always needing to be right?
Yeah. Well, there's many costs. We kind of hit on them a little bit, but one is we're not going to take risks. We're going to sit back, stay quiet, and we're going to stay small
Mhm.
and really not be afraid to speak out.
Yeah,
We might be wrong. I've been there. I've done that. I have like held things in, like I've had an idea or something, but I'm like, oh, but it could be wrong. It might be the wrong answer. I might not, I shouldn't say anything.
yeah,
And if I don't feel safe, I'm not going to say anything. But again, now I'm not going to be taking the risks that could lead to something bigger and better
yeah,
because that's a big thing that it's costing us by not being able to be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, when I was in school, I never volunteered an answer because I was way too afraid of being wrong or bringing attention to myself. A good day in school was not being called on and not having to speak at all. That was a good day for me. Yeah, which obviously that also meant that I wasn't asking questions. And there
Mhm.
were a lot of things that I would be confused about, but there was no way in hell I was raising my hand and asking a question because I was afraid to take that risk because I was trying to keep myself small.
Yeah. It
I
was
like
also
looking back, I can't even imagine how many opportunities that I missed out on, and things that I could have learned about because I was terrified of being wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed. It really stops the learning process
it
because
does.
there's so much in asking questions and
Mm.
so much information, or there's so much in being wrong and really it just keeps us from being authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might not know this. Yep, everybody doesn't know everything.
Mhm.
Everybody's good at certain subjects and not good at another subject. Someone that might be good in math is not good in English. That's okay. We're all so unique. That's what makes the world work so well because we all can do different jobs to work together. So we're not going to be all smart at the same things, but to get knowledge on certain things, we do have to be able to ask questions. And
Yeah,
that is a big cost.
it is.
Um, you know, so what has this taught us then, Shanice?
Yeah.
All this stuff we're talking about, like what did we learn from this?
Well, one big thing is I don't feel safe being in environments where I can't be wrong. I will not put myself in an environment where I don't feel safe to ask questions or like I mean, I know this episode is about we're talking about right and wrong here, but then all the gray areas in between. Like, maybe my answer is right for me, but not right for someone else. So like we said before, being safe to just be our authentic selves and express ourselves in
Yeah.
however way that comes out.
Yeah. And I think it taught us a lot back to us, us building a business together and creating the safe environment and learning as we go and being, I've been wrong, you've been wrong, but it's been safe. It's okay.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know everything. And it is a very safe environment. And that is, I think, a really good point you brought up that it taught us that. And I, as well as you, agree that I would not enter a relationship of any kind, that it is not safe to be wrong.
Yeah.
I will not put myself in that environment. That is
Yeah.
a huge thing it taught me. I would stay in environments like that in my past out of fear of fitting in,
Mhm.
out of fear of just, again, making sure that I was with these people that I really didn't need to be with.
Yeah.
And I won't be in that position anymore. That's a
Yeah.
big, big thing it taught me as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And also, like, there's more than one way to look at things,
Huge.
And my gosh. And so
10,000
just
ways to bake a cake, you know? I always go back. I always tell my kids that, because they'll be like, well, you should do this or do that. I'm like, you know what? There's like 10,000 ways to bake a cake.
oh, I love that. I've never heard that before. I love
I tell
that.
my kids hear it all the time. You know what I mean? There's so many ways you can go about the same thing.
Mhm.
So to be wrong, it's like, well, that might be wrong for that person. Maybe they just doesn't feel good for them, but doesn't mean it's wrong for someone else. Because again,
Exactly.
maybe it feels better to do it this way for them. So
Exactly.
yeah, more than one way to look at things. Absolutely agree.
Mhm. Yeah, and as a parent, helping my kids focus on what it taught you. So, like, the magic of being wrong is that you get to discover, oh, there's another way to go about this. There's another way to do it. Like, to me, that is magic. And so having that outlook, like going from someone who was raised in an environment where it wasn't safe to be wrong, and then creating an environment for myself where I now feel so safe being wrong. And the idea of being wrong, being villainized is ridiculous to me now. That is completely ridiculous. And so like creating that safety in myself and for my kids, where it's almost exciting when you get it wrong, because that means there's an opportunity to discover something here. And I love that. I love discovering new things. I love learning new things. So being wrong to me now, I don't get scared. I don't get anxious like I did when I was little. I actually get excited about it now. That's exciting. Oh, cool. Let's discover what the answer is, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and now you can kind of be lighter and laugh more at yourself when you're wrong. I know I can when I'm wrong about things, I just laugh. And then also, like you're talking about this growth, really the growth for me, Shanice, in getting something wrong is that I will remember that more now, what I didn't know
Yeah.
because I got it wrong. So I go deeper with it. Like a little example, like my daughter, when she went on her driver's test. She didn't pass the first time because she went through a stop sign, obviously a
Oof.
big no. But and it was a little stop sign that she couldn't really see. The big thing about it was a tiny stop sign at a railroad track, but it was hidden way back.
Mhm.
But with getting that wrong and going through that lesson, now she's more observant of littler stop signs, of things that she might have passed by because she didn't get that wrong. So do you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So her getting
Yeah.
that wrong, she could emotionalize that even deeper about sometimes stop signs might be put further back that you might not see them, to kind of be more cautious and look for them, which that is a life-saving thing.
Yes.
So there's some life-saving tips that you can really take away from this by being able to do something, per se wrong,
Uh-huh.
and emotionalize that on a deeper level because you did get it wrong. And you're like, oh my God, now I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, because like there's actually more growth in getting things wrong than in getting things right. You know, that's so crazy to me. Like
I know.
I have learned so much more from all of the things that I've gotten wrong in life. All of the mistakes that I've made, like all of the errors, all of that has helped me grow way more than the things that I got right. You know, like there's so much value in that. And because we're raised and indoctrinated to be so afraid of being wrong, we're missing out on the value. Like,
Yeah, it's very true. And the thing is though, I think the part that we started with in the beginning of this episode is the fear in it. It's very uncomfortable, right? And we have to be okay with being uncomfortable. I can't I would be lying if I said it still sometimes can be uncomfortable not getting things right depending on the environment I'm in.
yeah.
So it's not like I'm like, "Oh, okay, I can just be wrong all the time." But I'm also okay with feeling uncomfortable. That's the bigger thing. It's not like I'm saying there's no uncomfortable. It's I'm okay with feeling uncomfortable in moments when I might get something wrong. And doing the inner work that we talk about on this show
Mhm.
constantly brought us there to be able to feel our feelings, to
Yeah.
be able to sit with, why am I feeling like this? And oh, is this taking me back to something in childhood that I couldn't, didn't do right? But just sitting with it and being okay and still in that uncomfortable place, being able to be wrong and not stay small and still ask the questions and still get curious with being in that uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
That's what it taught me.
And it's so much easier when we give ourselves permission to get it wrong, permission to look dumb, permission to stumble. Yeah. I mean, we're having this human experience. Let's be in the human experience. Let's give ourselves permission to experience all that comes with being human.
Yeah.
And not be so afraid of it and like lean into it more.
Yeah. And you know what? We do get closer every time. How many no's do you need to hear before you get it right? You're getting closer to the right by
Yeah.
being wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like allowing yourself to keep being wrong gets you closer,
Yeah,
right?
every no is
Yeah.
one step closer to a yes.
Yes. And I've done that. I've been like, okay, I get a wrong turn, wrong turn. Finally, I'm going to make a right turn.
Yeah, and then you look back and you're so grateful that you continued even after all the no's, even after all the wrongs. Yeah, I mean, looking back, I'm so grateful for all the things that I've gotten wrong because they've led to the level of awareness that we have today. And take I wouldn't change that for anything.
Yeah, agreed. They're very good redirectors as well.
Mhm.
Getting something wrong or whether a situation, there's so many things when we're titling this wrong, but there's so much growth. Bottom line, it's huge growth in being wrong
Yeah.
and taking that in and just embracing it and not taking it personal. Because I
Mhm.
think that's what it is. It's like we think there's something wrong with us by getting it wrong. It's like we attach to that. That is what it is. It has, and that is not it at all. So it affects our worth if
Mhm.
we let it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And then so in that sense, separating who we are, our identity from what we do. Anchoring into our I hear this a lot. You're a human being, not a human doing.
Right.
I
Exactly.
love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shanice, so to wrap up this episode, we talked about how we've been conditioned by our upbringing and environment to fear being wrong.
Mhm.
And we also discussed what it was costing us and what we learned from it.
Yes. And if you'd like to learn more about us or check out our products and services, you can click the link in the description. So I don't know whose today's quote is by, but it's a good one. It's called The Beauty of Being Wrong. Mistakes aren't failures, they're the chapters where growth begins. Today, don't shy away from being wrong. Instead, see it as a stepping stone to something better. I love that.
I do too.
Love that. Yes, that's how we should all come at it. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. If this episode spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it. And thank you guys for listening to Branching In with Shanice.
And Lori, join us for our next episode. We post on Fridays. See you guys then. Bye.